All right. Well, it's 7:02, and we haven't had one of these meetings for a while. So thanks for carving some time out of everybody's schedule here to join us here again. Patty and I were putting together the agenda last week, and there was a few items that were on it that we decided we would pull forward. We are also going to try and have a conversation with Tina Stamper, who's at CAMC. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it today, so we won't get into an IPOC presentation that she was going to do. So we'll put that onto a future agenda. But we did have a few things talking about start and stop exams in RadNet, how sites are handling nutrition and dietitian charting and diet orders. And then just a couple of things kind of on the state of where the industry is, both with Cerner and then some of the regulatory items. So I know there's, I guess I'll first say, does anybody on the phone have anything specific that they would like to ask or talk about? This meeting really is for us to be able to bring up any questions or concerns or successes as well for things that we've done. So I wanted to first open it up to the group. Jenna, did you have something?
Yeah, I just have a question in regards to if anyone on the call, and I'm sorry, I can't see who all's on the call, but if anyone has launched either CareAware Connect with the barcode scanning and the secure text messaging, and also in addition to that, has anyone launched the smart infusion pumps?
So Jenna, this is Simi. I implemented CareAware Connect. We're in the process of right now building for our BCMA, and we'll launch with PathNet for specimen collection in the fall. And we don't do smart infusion, but I'm happy to talk to you about CareAware Connect platform, secure messaging, voice, and the modernized nursing app.
Okay, that would be awesome, Simi. And what healthcare system are you with? Remind me again.
I'm at Children's National in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so you're not far from us. Okay, that'd be great. So are you good if I email you and find some time to connect?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Jenna, are you getting ready to implement CareAware Connect?
We are in the process of kind of gathering our requirements and getting a project manager lined up for it. We have our consultant, but we are looking at launching first in the ED because that's a little bit more of a controlled environment for us. We haven't officially signed with it, but we are. It is coming on fairly quickly because we know that we've got to get these tools in the hands of our nurses as well as our other clinicians. But we're really trying to reduce that administrative burden and cognitive overload. And so this is one of our approaches that we're going to dive into.
That's I'm diving into this a little bit, and Simi, feel free to jump into because Holly Allison's on the phone as well. She's at Concord Hospital, so I don't want to talk for her. I know she said she was trying to get her kids out the door, so she might not be able to talk. So jump in if you can, Holly. But I know Concord is looking at implementing CareAware Connect, so I think this is a perfect timing from their perspective as well. So would love to, even on this conversation, talk a little bit more about it and why you decided to go with CareAware Connect, if you had anything there before that you're using for nurse communication, anything like that.
Yeah, Brian, this is Holly. Thank you for bringing that up. We're actually using Vocera technology right now, which is a hands-free platform, and it's limiting in terms of what we can process for alerts that are legible for the nurse, and also have had some challenges getting the secure texting app off the ground just with some vendor issues. So also interested in what you had before and if you had to move away from a different platform, because I think our nurses have become so accustomed to the hands-free piece that it may be challenging to transition to something else, even though it may have more value.
Yeah, for us, we had them on Vocera as well, but we have never had the ability for our nurses to secure text. And so this is kind of bringing us into the space that we need to be in. We just already happen to have licenses with Cerner that we purchased, quite honestly, years ago, and we just haven't implemented. And so when I was at the CNIO summit that Cerner puts on, there was a healthcare system there, and I can't remember who it was, but they talked about their launch around CareAware Connect, and they had a pretty positive, they had positive outcomes associated with it. And for us, what we are thinking is that, you know, our nurses come into the organization, and as soon as they come in, the first thing they do is put away their mobile device, which is a native device for them now. I mean, it's just part of their everyday work. But I would be interested in hearing more about kind of the barrier, since it is not going to be hands-free like the Vocera essentially is. And if there's any opportunity from voice recognition perspective with these phones, maybe that's a design that we put in place to address that.
Hi, so this is Simi. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much time you want me to spend on it, because we've been on CareAware Connect since 2014. So I have a long history with this. So Brian, I don't know how long you want me to just talk a little bit about it or not.
I would say go ahead. Yeah, Kim, it looks like I saw a little thumbs up come. So I think, are you good with it too?
Yeah, I had a couple
absolutely.
of questions also around the Vocera piece, because we saw a presentation recently about Vocera, and so some of the things that you're talking about are available within the Vocera world, and I just don't know if it's a newer solution than what you guys moved off of, or whether or not there, you know, it's smoke and mirrors, I guess.
Is it secure texting that they said was available, Kim, that Jenna said
Yeah,
wasn't?
there's secure texting, there's like a mobile integration for some basic charting and that kind of stuff as well. And for us in Canada, the mobile platform from Cerner is really cost prohibitive because it's crazy expensive. And so for us with public dollars, it's really hard to justify some of the mobile technology that comes from Cerner. So we're looking at other opportunities for even just a little bit of mobile integration, and Vocera was one of them. And then, yeah, the texting and the communication pieces they described as being, you know, different than perhaps what you guys experienced, maybe.
Yeah, Kim, I'm not sure on the actual, I guess, version of Vocera that Concord's on. I know they've been working with the vendor on some upgrades, and it feels like we're not making a ton of forward progress on some of that. So we do have them engaged. I thought it was a fairly new technology we have, but that's good to know that that you're seeing that and you have some of that.
Yeah, Brian, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Holly. I was just going to say, I think we're on a fairly new version. We just can't seem to get through some issues we've had with the upgrade, with battery issues we've had. I think the texting platform in general, they're still testing. It just seems like we've been working on it for months. So I think we're kind of getting towards the end of our rope a little bit.
I can just tell you guys really quickly. So we were actually on the original CareAware Connect platform 2.0 in 2014. And we had I think we did the largest deployment of CareAware Connect phones at the time. It was 700 inpatient nurses, case management, social worker, and chaplain services, child life, and the CICU at the time. We are now using the 3.0 platform. We transitioned from the iPhone because it was harder to maintain the iOS updates than it is with Android. You can control Android updates on your phone. So you have to do native device updates as well as the CareAware Connect platform, which is a lot of maintenance. So we have a very scheduled process for that. But as far as the CareAware Connect device, since we moved to the 3.0 platform and the Android device, We've had a lot more platform stability. From 2014 to 2019, it was awful. And we actually thought about getting rid of CareAware Connect. And then when they came out with this 3.0, it worked much better. Right now we use voice dialing. We talked to them with the original implementation that there was no way to do emergency calling. You always had to log into the phone because the voice and message app were together. They've separated those two apps now, so you can actually do voice dialing. The Android device also has its own phone number. So if the CareAware Connect platform is down, you can actually still make phone calls from the device because it has its own phone number. And then as far as secure messaging concern, I mean, I think that's a win-win, and it does do voice to text. We've also enabled Bluetooth technology for our hearing impaired nurses and staff, so they can wear earbuds in their ears if they need to answer the phone and stuff and they are unable to hear clearly. And what else? We are in the process, a week ago updated to the new modernized nursing app, which is bringing about some more features in terms of patient information. The original native nursing modernized app was not well adopted by our nursing staff. We're hoping that the new version of it, because it does give them more information about the patient other than just order review and basic demographics. Now it gives them problem lists, social history, registration information flows through where you actually have the point of contact phone number for the patient, a family caregiver you can call directly from the phone. You can see medications, and once we go live with BCMA, they'll be able to do BCMA. We are also integrated with our Rollin system and our Philips system, so they get alerts and notifications, which we had to really think about what high alerts do you want to go through the phone for Philips monitoring. For nursing, the Rollin nurse call system, we are currently in the process of doing an upgrade where we'll be able to do better notification management, and nurses will also be able to call directly through the nurse call device in the room to the patient instead of having to go in and out of the room for simple requests. So overall for us, the CareAware Connect platform has been really good. We also increased BYOD usage amongst our providers who are not inpatient so that they can continue to get messaging. And we leverage the desktop messenger with our unit secretaries, our lab, and our pharmacy so that they can identify who's caring for a patient and send them a direct message. That's really fast, high-level overview, but we are currently in a really good place with CareAware Connect.
Well, that's great to hear. And thanks for running through sort of how you're using it. That's great to hear. I'm curious, one of the last things you mentioned was a desktop messenger. I don't know if I'm familiar with that. What is that?
Desktop Messenger is a version of Messenger that's available through a icon app on the actual desktop device, like a thin client or a PC, where you can log in and you can actually send messages directly from a desktop to the phone. And the person receives a text message. So like for the UCAs and lab and pharmacy staff who don't need to carry phones but still want to use secure messaging, they can log in through the desktop messaging version of it. Also, for example, I have my CareAware Connect number forwarded to my personal cell, so I don't have to carry two phones, and people can call me directly using my Connect number, but the phone call comes to my cell phone. And I can also log into secure messaging off of my phone, personal phone, and send messages. So those who are provisioned for the enterprise version of CareAware Connect historically also have BYOD access, but my understanding was that they were going to start charging a fee for it, which is pretty nominal. And so you can have both as a user.
Got it. Okay.
Hey,
That's
Simi.
very interesting. Kim, was that one of the barriers in Ontario, is thinking that you're going to have to supply everyone with the iPhone or a SpectraLink or whatever device, or was it just the
Yeah,
license?
that's part of it. That's part of it. But I think with Vocera, like I said, that there was some integration into the system, into Cerner, and I can't even remember. They had a multitude of integration options, Fire and integration into iBus and et cetera, that would provide some of the mobile pieces. But if we can get some of the mobile pieces out of CareAware Connect, then I mean that would be my preference, right? Because I don't want to have to integrate stuff all the time. So I'm definitely going to explore this in a different fashion now.
Hey, Simi. This is Jenna again. Did you also set up where the system knows like who the healthcare team is for the day, to know who that tech, instead of going to a quote person, it's going to go to the role that's there that's scheduled for the day. So like if I have,
Yeah.
okay, you did that as well.
Yeah, so we actually, that was one of our biggest barriers when we first implemented CareAware Connect with going live with the provider group, was that they did not have the concept of role-based texting. And that actually is something we helped them create, because as you guys all know, the same person is not always the attending, the resident or the fellow or the social worker on call or whoever, even charge nurse. So originally the way you had to do it is you had to log in using generic accounts. But with the rollout of role-based positions, now you can claim a role, and you can claim more than one role. And so if I'm Simi King, who's also, the resident for a service, but I'm also the on-call resident in the evening, I can claim multiple roles. And so then that way I can, the other users looking for the on-call person doesn't have to know that it's Simi King. They just have to know what role they're looking for. So we do role-based communication as well for our social workers, our provider teams, our respiratory therapy charge, respiratory supervisor, social work on call. I'm trying to think of, and the on-call ED team. They all get roles. I mean, we have a gazillion roles. So people can claim roles. And then the big thing about roles is making sure you manage the unclaim process, which is fine if someone else takes the role from you. But if you don't unclaim a role and no one else comes in, then it looks like you're still in the role and you might not be at work or what have you. So it's just managing those processes.
Okay.
And I do know that I'm on Cerner Product Council for CareAware Connect, and I know that they're doing more work with Care Team Design for integration within the EMR. And I believe that they're working on something, I'm not sure, about being able to actually send messages directly while you're in Millennium. So that's something else that I believe they're looking at. And they're also looking at video calling, so that if you want to reach out, secure video calling with patients and families.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Holly. I have a quick question. Are you doing any sort of critical lab result reporting through the platform to either nursing or providers?
Yeah, so you can see critical lab values on the nursing app, and they also still follow the process that they have to be notified about critical values, which is why we gave lab access, and they're able to get in through desktop messenger, and they can send a message to the nurse that there's a critical value. We ask that they don't do any PHI in the secure messages, even though they're secure. So they might say, please call me, or they might say there's a critical value for you to review. But or they'll call the nurse to let the nurse know directly. But we are also using camera capture for some of our teams, and camera capture is now also enabled in the new modernized nursing app without having to provision it separately. So we'll also be able to do photos, because we did not turn on the capability of taking pictures in secure messaging.
Thank you.
So the camera capture, how are you licensed? Because you're required to be licensed for camera capture under, like, by device.
Yeah, so that was the
And
original way that they were implementing camera capture, which is why we didn't have a broad rollout for camera capture originally. But now, with the new modernized nursing app, our nurses who are provisioned for my understanding is that the multimedia feature is now going to be available through the new modernized nursing app, and we just have to turn the feature on for our nursing staff to be able to take photographs. They currently have access to view multimedia files, but not all staff are provisioned to actually use the camera capture app, which was a separate app, because you're correct, there was a licensing fee per user, and we did not want to do that extensively.
Great. Well, Simi, you probably didn't think you were going to do a reference call this morning, did you? But this
Simi,
has
that was
been,
great information. Thank
yeah,
you so much.
yeah, we appreciate you
yeah, I
joining.
didn't have enough to do already. Now I'm going to go and investigate this.
Yeah, I mean, let me know if you want to learn more. I will tell you that the more you use the CareAware Connect platform, and that's what we're preparing for right now, is the more you increase the phone as the mobile device as your primary device for nursing workflow, you have to recognize that when you have a unplanned or planned downtime, you have to really think about your business continuity plans. Because, for us, once we get rid of all the scanners on the floors because we're only going to use phones, what happens when the phones don't work? Or what's your inventory management process to make sure you have enough phones, right? So you have to also think about, how do you maintain your nursing workflows when you become so reliant on a singular device?
Yeah. Speaking of devices, I mean, have you seen any decreased usage in other devices? So I always have this grand vision that at some point in the future, you carry your chart around with you, an iPhone or something like that. I mean, are you feeling like, okay, maybe we don't need carts everywhere, maybe we don't need these big expensive devices sitting in every room or in all the hallways, because we now have something that does so much stuff that they're able to carry with them?
Um, I hope that'll happen. All of our providers are issued personal laptops, but our nurses still have to use, either a thin client device in a patient room. All our patient rooms have devices. What we've experienced through COVID is, and I don't know if you guys have, a lot of damage to the devices with cleaning products. And so then they're looking for a cow because their computer in the room isn't working, or the tethered barcode scanner becomes, or sorry, the barcode scanner, if it's tethered or untethered, becomes loses its configuration because someone accidentally unplugged it. Those kind of things are all the things we get frustrated with, which is why we're trying to look at leveraging a mobile device and moving to a single device where hopefully we can control better damage and having issues of not being configured and not having availability of devices, all of those things. But I'm not sure if we'll be in a world completely without some type of desktop device or a computer on wheels. I'm not sure if we're going to get there that fast.
Yeah, it's
Simi,
my future goal.
Simi, with the downtime since 2019, because it seems like 2019 is when you guys got to a better place with CareAware Connect. Have you had, have you had a lot of downtime, or is that not really an issue with the CareAware Connect?
We've had issues where we've had things that are we've had global impact with Cerner having issues on their end, where we've had users being unable to log in, or voice calling isn't working but text is working. We have had issues. I won't say we've had nothing unplanned. I will say that in comparison to the first 5 years, it is much better. And we've also still continued to have some persistent issues in certain areas, being an old hospital with Wi-Fi and not being able to have 100% Wi-Fi connection in every location. So there are occasionally dropped calls, but nothing like before.
Okay.
We use the Zebra TC51 and 52. And one thing that we've had to really remind ourselves staff about is not damaging the microphone on the phone, which is at the front of the phone, with cleaning solutions, because that does impact voice calling, your ability to hear people, which has been a challenge for us because, you know, everybody was cleaning like crazy during COVID.
And how are the cost of those devices, generally speaking?
I think that they're about $1,000 a piece, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Any other questions about CareAware Connect? All right, well, this has been a great conversation. Thanks, Jennifer, for kicking us off there. Do you have any other questions that you wanted to pose out to the group?
Yeah, the only other one I have is the smart pump Infusion. If anyone's on it, I don't think anyone is on it that's on this call, but that's our other. That's the other thing we're looking to launch fairly soon.
Are you talking about pump integration or integration into CareAware Connect with alerting?
Integration into Cerner. You know, where when your order changes, that your pump will change, and all of ours is done manually at this point at the bedside.
Yeah, we
So
have
you're talking
alerts.
about Infusion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say Infusion Management Suite. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have that at Concord. We went live with it when we went live Big Bang, which looking back, I probably wouldn't recommend, but we have had a lot of challenges with it, but are in a much better place now. So I do have an analyst that I could connect your team with if you wanted to do kind of a deeper dive or talk about some of our challenges. We have it live at one of our facilities. We recently acquired 2 additional facilities. They are not live on it. They'll be converting over to our Cerner instance in August, and we're hoping to budget for bringing them onto that for next year. The nurses initially were not crazy about it because it is it's a couple additional steps, but once they got used to it, they really like it. And when it's not available, it's a big deal for them. Obviously has a lot of safety and efficiency gains, but it is challenging to maintain initially. And I would recommend you have a dedicated analyst that really gets to know that process. We have a pharmacy analyst and a nurse analyst that took the lead on that. And right now it's working well. We did have some challenges initially, but I think that was also related to the fact that we had it coupled in with our Big Bang go live. So I'm happy to connect you with someone if you would like to do a follow-up call on that.
Yes, I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So this is Holly talking. I don't know if I'm only on the phone, but Brian has my contact. If you want to connect us, Brian, over email, I can take that follow-up.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
So do you currently have the integration and you're just transitioning to the smart technology piece of the integration, or you don't have any integration with your pumps today?
We do not have any integration with our pumps today.
Okay. So we did the integration piece, but not the smart pieces for a couple of reasons. In Canada, there's only a couple of pumps that are certified to be able to even integrate, and then even fewer pumps that are able to integrate smartly. And we don't have the smartest pumps in our region. So we're actually removing it from our contract. It was originally built into our contract with Cerner. We're actually removing it because my sites don't have an intent to replace their pumps in the short term. So we're going to remove the smart piece of the contract, but we did integrate through the Infusion Management Suite all of our pumps in the region.
Thank you. Was that Kim talking?
Yes.
Thank you, Kim.
Simi, were you going to say something as well or not?
Sorry, we started down the path for Infusion Management Suite, but we had a lot of trouble being able to really build it out because we had a lot of order sentence issues. And so we backed out of it because we needed to work with pharmacy from our original build from 2005 for our medication administration. A lot of customization, a lot of things that made it very challenging to do that work. And then also our workflows where we bolus from the bag for certain drugs. That workflow was not really easy to figure out on Infusion Management. However, we have gone to clients who are pediatric clients who do Infusion Management, and we are hoping to look into it again. And since we've done order sentence cleanup, and we're hoping to look at it again because our nurses actually would prefer it, but we're just not, there's a lot of design and build considerations with it.
Yeah, I'm worried
Yeah.
we may run into similar things. So that's good information.
This is Holly. I think that was one of the advantages of us doing it at Go Live is our order sentence build was, from scratch essentially. So we had a consultant working with us in addition to the consultant working on the pharmacy bill that guided us through that. So that may be why that wasn't an issue for us, but I can have the analyst talk through that as well.
Yeah, I think that's the same for us. It was part of our Big Bang implementation. And so it was on the radar right from the get-go across, all of the functional teams when we were doing our build work.
Brian, I did have one other topic if there's time, unless there's still questions about Smart Pump.
So, go on, Brett.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I think we can go on, Holly, if you had a question or want to talk about something.
Yeah, so we recently did a presentation for our Board of Trustees around cybersecurity and also what we do institutionally for downtime procedures and essentially looking at how we would prepare for a cybersecurity type situation. And one of the things that we have a weakness on is our mock planning. I think we've tried to do events in the past. We've had some success in our ambulatory space. We do a lot of education about it with our nursing teams. And there is an expectation at the unit level. They have updated downtime boxes and procedures, but it's one of those things that if it's not, constant care and feeding, it's not on people's radar. So interested to hear if there's any, or if this can be a follow-up too, if there's anyone that would be willing to have a call, how, you incorporate more of the mock planning throughout the year, and what success you've had with that, because we definitely have a weak spot for that. We have staff who forget we have 724. They kind of go into a panic mode when we have an unexpected downtime. So just interested in how we can tighten that up.
It's Kim. We're doing a ton of work right now about business continuity planning. I don't know if you've heard that Canada's had a couple of high profile issues recently. So of course it's brought it up to light for many of us. So it's really hard to do the mock planning, I know. So we are doing tabletop scenarios and bringing people into a whiteboarding room and doing tabletop scenarios, and then on a yearly basis is the plan. We talked about twice a year, but it's just the logistics of coordinating the people that you need is pretty difficult. So we don't think we can coordinate it twice a year. So we're going with once a year, and doing these tabletop exercises within each, well, I'd like to say within each department, but yeah, right now with the shortages out there, it's hard to even do that much. So I feel your pain, definitely.
Yeah, we
This
didn't.
is Sim.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, yeah, I think we're all doing a lot of work with cybersecurity and business continuity. Brian, I don't know. I can give you the name of our chief security information officer, Nate. His name is Nate Lesser. Nate's done a really good job, and what we've implemented in terms of education is we came up with what we call Code Dark, and it gives staff just a basic acronym on what to do if they were to see a ransomware or perceive that that's what's happening. That's now just a badge card that they have on their cards. He's also created a risk index for cybersecurity, which is really neat, looking at different aspects of cybersecurity, not just from phishing events or vulnerabilities, but more extensively. So that might be a presentation that you guys might be interested in. I'm not the expert in this area, but I certainly know that Nate is.
Yes, I think
that would be great.
Yeah.
Agree.
So do you mean doing it as one of these sessions, or setting up a separate session just for sites to talk about cybersecurity and open it up to a more broader group?
Either is fine by me.
I think it's the forefront of everybody's mind. So maybe using a session like this and inviting in a larger audience or somebody like Nate, and then if other teams have cybersecurity resources, kind of bringing them together.
I mean, every site's talking about it, and not just with the CNIO group, right? So
Well, I know, yeah.
So Brian, if you want to connect with me, I can connect you to Nate, and you guys can figure out what the best way to do that is.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that, Simi. I'll reach out. All right. Any other open topics from the group?
I have a quick question. So,
Sure.
I am struggling with, we have providers who basically write orders and notes, and then feel like that's sufficient for order writing, especially in the ambulatory space, where they write a note for a follow-up radiology test, for example, in their notes, indicating to the nurse that when the patient arrives that they should get this radiology procedure. And what they're asking is, can that be considered a written order? And we're like, because they don't want to have to then then have the nurse enter an order as a verbal or something and have to co-sign it again because they feel like that's rework. I am wondering how you guys manage your order types, because for us, what we're saying is obviously verbal is limited. And then if, oh, how do I get out of here? Sorry, I'm at a roadblock. Okay. So I just wanted to know, what types of order types do you have and how do you manage them? If anybody has anything
So,
about, and we don't have to talk about it right now if you want to send me something.
I mean, generally speaking, we have, you know, we have your verbals, we have medical directive, we have scope. There's 5, and of course, off the top of my head, I can't remember what the other 2 are. But the scenario that you're describing would be one of those times where we would put our foot down and say, "No, doc, you need to write the order." and we don't do that very often because we don't usually get great compliance with it. But yeah, if they want an order for something like that, they need to be the ones who write the order. And we would really encourage them not to use a verbal order type in that scenario.
Yeah. So we've created written order types. Obviously, the provider writes that. Then we've got verbal per protocol prescription renewal. But now everybody is asking us about, well, what do you do when it's written somewhere else and it qualifies as all the parameters for an order, but it's not written directly in the EMR in the order section. It's in a note. So
yeah, we
I
don't
feel like
have a
that's
written order type. We don't have
okay.
a written order type anymore. I mean, we might still have it there, but it's not used widely. It was used for cutover, for go live, and it's rarely used now. We get the odd time with a surgeon's office, you know, that the patient was seen in the office, but we have other integration of applications to cover that. So it's not a typical workflow that we have anymore.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. One quick add. This is Holly. I agree with the folks that have chimed in. We don't have any specialized communication types for that. We're pretty lean on our list. But one thing we did do in the ambulatory space is there's a high use of quick orders, but we also did power plans in our ambulatory practices for frequent orders with pre-filled order sentences to make it a little bit easier if they are going through their workflow, finish their note, and want to pop over to enter an order. So we did that with our CT scans and some of our specialty-based orders with cardiology and some of our specialty practices. And we've had some success with that because it's been able to cut down on the amount of fields they have to fill in for orders. So I'm not saying it would solve all the problem, but that might help some of the frustration.
Yeah, thank you. We do power plans and we do have quick orders, and
Okay.
I think that and we also even use future orders, you know, where you just have to initiate the orders when they come in versus, you know, they're sitting in a plan state, the physician activates them and then the nurse can initiate. But this is just an odd scenario where they're writing them in their notes, their emails, their whatever, and it's just not cool. But
Yeah,
trying to
and
figure out how
it's one
to
of those
solve that.
times where I think it might be where your foot goes down and says, you know, like, this is not a practice that we can support, because I could see that being a huge slippery slope.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Holly, I know you had talked about reviewing the new documentation model. I'm not sure how long you wanted, or if you wanted to maybe say that for a future meeting potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I can give a quick overview, and then if you want me to do a more detailed update, I can. It basically, during COVID, we, like many facilities, had a huge strain on our nursing staff, and one of the things we looked at was the burden of documentation. We had to shift around a lot of our nurse to patient ratios and had nurses really floating to all different areas. So one of the things that our CNO asked us to look at was how do we reduce documentation? Is there any opportunities for that to streamline? And what became a process that we looked at in the midst of COVID really became our new norm. So we actually moved away, which is a little controversial, completely from IPOCs. So we've kind of moved totally away from that. We are working on one plan as a future initiative, but we actually do our plan of care within a narrative note that we created some auto text for. And so nurses still use iView as the start of their shift. They do a full head to toe, and that's required that they do a full head to toe at the start of their shift. But for areas like ICU and some of our areas that have frequent documentation elements to put in the system, charting every hour with the same options in iView really was not helpful for anybody. We don't allow copy forward either, so that was something that they had to do every hour and click every box, and nursing staff was very frustrated, and our providers could never really discern what the changes were because they were just seeing the same assessment, very frequently in their flow sheet. So one of the things we did was we have the nurses do a head to toe, and then they really just use iView throughout their shift for any pertinent changes. So if I have an event like my respiratory patient has respiratory changes, I'm going to go ahead and iView chart that I notified the provider, and I leave everything else as it's still the same. And then at the end of my shift, I do a narrative note, and that really encompasses any plans of care, interventions, plan for the next shift, and a summary of what occurred during the shift, which is actually a lot more meaningful for the rest of the care team. And we've had a really high percentage of positive feedback from providers and for nursing because they were really not a fan of IPOCs at all. We struggled with them for years. We've struggled with our plan of care process for years, but we kind of reverted back to what we did previously, which was more of a narrative note with some structure to give them guidance. So I just wanted to let the group know that we've had a fair amount of documentation reduction with that. It's been able to increase satisfaction, and we did have quality risk and our legal team involved in that to make sure we weren't moving away from any of the structured elements we need to continue to capture. But it's been a really successful project here at Concord. So I just shared to, not that I want to promote moving away from Cerner's model, but it didn't really work for us. And the IPOCs really had very little value because they weren't displaying in a way that could really help the next shift, and providers did not look at them, which caused a high level of frustration for nursing. So we have rolled that out here at Concord, and we're going to roll it out at our 2 additional facilities as well. So I'm happy to show it at a future meeting. I just wanted to, I know documentation is always a burden on nursing. I just wanted to share with the group.
This is Jenna. I would love
I'd be
to see
interested
that.
in seeing it.
We're working through similar things, and we are still trying to fix the IPOC. So it would be kind of nice to throw it out and do something different that's going to add more value. So yeah, we're trying to make that fit into the box, and it's just not doing it.
Yeah,
for us, we actually didn't use IPOCs even right from our get-go that much because we didn't. I guess I didn't realize that others were struggling with it, but we didn't see the true value. We have a few of them that are related to QBPs, which is linked to funding here in Canada. So we needed some way of managing those, and it's kind of a workaround. It's not really what it should be, but it's doing the basics for us, and that's really all we use the IPOCs for. They were not well received when they were shown to us way back in the project, so we actually didn't go there. So I'm glad we made that decision. But so that what you described as it relates to iView, we do. That is kind of how the approach we took. But what we don't do is that sort of summary at the end of shift. So I would be curious to learn a little bit more about that and see if that's something we should be adopting as well.
Yeah, we can do that as a follow-up too, Brian. I'd want to have one of the analysts on the phone and probably pull in a nurse educator that's been pretty instrumental in rolling it out. But I mean, it was a big mindset shift for nursing, especially our newer nurses who had really never done a SOAP note or anything like that. So but it took some care and feeding, but now it's been really successful. And we had the same issue with IPOCs. We rewrote them fully after our first year of go live, because we had we're DNV certified, but we had a citing for that. So we did a full rewrite, and even after that, it felt just they weren't using them, they weren't helpful. And I think the biggest component is the care team couldn't really discern what was going on with the patient. So providers love the new documentation, and I think for shift to shift, it's really helpful because it gives really kind of what happened that's pertinent for my next shift besides iView. And the other thing with iView is now that we're only charting the changes, it's much easier for the provider to key into that versus just looking at the same assessment repeated, every hour, every 2 hours, et cetera. So happy to do a follow-up on that.
Now, Holly, did they do anything like no changes noted? Do they check anything that says that, or they truly are just documenting if something is different?
They're just documenting if something's different. We did initially we kind of redid our whole iView after go live because we were one of the first model clients and it was pretty messy. So we had a no change since my last assessment for certain elements in iView. There were some that we did not allow that for, that we had some issues with just risk in the past. But we moved away from using that, and they just chart changes at this point.
Okay, and their narrative, is that in like the nurse's notes, or where do you have that living?
Yeah, we have, we took one of the narrative notes that was kind of part of model and renamed it. And then we built some auto text within that they can use. So there's some dot phrases. They also have one for education, plan of care, and then just their general assessment. And there's some pre-canned text that we've put in at the bottom as well to support some of the elements that we need charted. So it was a pretty basic build, honestly. It was more workflow and education because the note was pretty quick to build. There was some DynDoc work that had to happen with it, but the narrative note, we just took one of the ones that existed and renamed it. We also have a documents page that we put all of our documents filtered on, and we made sure that it was visible on that page so that providers could see it. So they're able to just click right in that filtered page and see the narrative note, and they can see each of the shifts so they can compare. So
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
welcome.
This has been like the best call.
For off agenda
The best call I've
topics.
had in a while, for sure. Definitely the best call I've had in a while.
So there was
Yeah.
there was one other topic that Tina had contacted me about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago or something, that I don't know if it's worth putting on the agenda for next time, because I don't know if she got a resolution. But she said that they were looking for workflow improvements for documenting start and stop time for Infusion for capturing charges appropriately. And so I wonder if we should add that to the agenda. She may have resolved her issue, but she was wanting to reach out. And I told her she could reach out to all of you independently, even if we didn't have a meeting. But the other topics that were on there from last time seem to be interesting as well. So it seems like we have a backlog of information. The very last time that we met, you guys all talked about wanting to talk about starting and stopping exams in RadNet for providers. I guess mostly it was for ambulatory. So is that something that people still want to talk about next time?
It's not an issue for us, but I don't know that it has the same requirements that it might have in the US. I don't know if there's a link to funding that's different over there, but if folks want to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about anything.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I could get a little more information on the issue, I might understand it better. It's not an issue I'm aware that we have, but again, happy to talk about it if.
I guess it was who should start and stop the exam when it's not going to the imaging department. So whether it's ultrasound or if it's in a orthopedic center or whomever, I don't know, it was on the topics.
Okay.
And it's been 6 months, so I don't think the person who brought it up is on right now. So yeah, maybe we can take that off. I mean, we filled up today without needing to dip into those.
Yeah, can
Maybe
I
they
add
fixed
one
it.
for next time? Sorry, go ahead,
Sure.
Holly. Um,
Oh, no, sir. I'm good. Thank you.
I need, we are working through blood administration using Bridge. And we're getting ready to do a huge project process improvement around it. We've been, kind of fixing one issue only to find another issue. And I don't know if other people are having problems with blood administration and Bridge, but that might be a good one to talk about. But if I'm the only one that's having that, then please don't add it there. But
Are
we are
you
struggling
going
with that.
live for the first time? Are you
Oh
going
no,
live for
we've
the
had
first
it.
time with Bridge, or
No,
I
we've
guess
had
maybe
Bridge
understanding what some of
since.
those challenges are might help. We have
Yeah,
Bridge
I mean,
live. I'm not aware of any significant issues. We have some challenges sometimes with derivatives and like IVIG we've been working through, but generally speaking, we've had a pretty good experience with it, unless we're missing something and we don't know what we don't know.
yeah, and
But maybe if we
I think,
understood some of your challenges, that maybe help.
yeah, I think our challenges. I think we're going to find that our challenge is not Bridge, and that our challenge is around people and process. Um, but it is, we have to go out kind of outside of Cerner to get to Bridge. I mean, we click into it, but you have to go out of the system. And I don't know how yours is if you
No, we don't
actually
have to do
and,
that.
and we have to double document like vitals and things like that. So we might document those vitals in iView, but then we've got to go into Bridge and document in Bridge. So it sounds like maybe we've got some
And we've got
integration
things moving
opportunity.
across. Yeah. The only place that we were not able to make it work is in anesthesia. Bridge doesn't
Yeah.
work well with the SA module, so we actually don't use Bridge in intra op because of that anesthesia module. But we know we've got things coming across, like going. They're not doing it in two places. That I know for sure. I'm not the pro. I've got some other folks who know about it better than I do, but that is not something.
Okay.
Definitely, that's not a challenge that we've had.
Well, we are going to kick off a project, so maybe in 2 months or so, when I've got a better understanding, because they're going to do a full analysis of what kind of our challenges are, and then that's when we're going to look at how we need to design it. And so maybe it's in a couple months that I can maybe bring it
Sure,
back to this group and ask some questions.
sure. I can put you in touch with my folks that know it better than I do as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, we are here at 8 o'clock. So we'll close the meeting down. It's just want to say thanks everybody again for joining here. It's been a while since we've had a meeting, so I'm glad we could get a group together and had a great discussion through a number of topics here. So Patty and I will work to get some of the minutes put together. And as always, we put these recordings out. So we'll be able to listen to the recordings as well. And we'll put together an agenda for next time as well. And we'll meet again in 2 months. So it will be July, probably the second week in July. So July 13th, and we'll get that invite out early. So we still have it on our calendars. But thank you,
Thanks,
everybody,
Brian.
and have a good
Thank
rest of the
you.
day.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.